Okay, now when it comes to tightening the clutch cable, obviously tightening this nut in and unlocking both of these nuts and pushing this side, the threaded side, out this way towards the arm will both stretch, you know, tighten up the cable. So if it's naturally stretched, you know, that will pull the cable taut. So that's really what you want to be doing. However, when it comes back to this up here, by screwing that in, what you're actually doing is you're losing the tension on there. By screwing it out, you bring back and add the tension. So you do need on your lever, so it's a trade-off of having the tension and then having to make up for that by bringing the threaded part more further out to tighten up the cable that way. Now, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realise that the cable is just inside a tubing or a sheath, if you like, and so I think technically what you're doing is, as the cable stretches ever so slightly, you're just adjusting the sheath that it's in again and lengthening that, taughtening that out to make up for it. Now obviously eventually the cable will stretch to beyond a point where it's not worth using and you will have to change the cable. Obviously if you want to change the cable, you just undo these nuts here and undo it from the actuator arm, and it'll drop out there, and then you've got a hook just in there to unhook it off there, and you run back up and unscrew it out and align the two, you got the lock nut and you got your adjusting nut, and you line them up with the slot and it'll just pop out from the lever and you can put it back in the reverse order. Right, so I think I'm going to go for a number 12, and you'll have to use an open-ended spanner because you're not going to be able to get it on over the cable. So you're going to have to adjust it from the side with an open-ended spanner. So I'll take a look at that. Yep, there we go. So what they recommend you do is you open the lock nut at the top by your lever, and you open or loosen off, slacken off if you like to say, these nuts here. I'm not done enough yet. Obviously you have to do both sides. Now obviously we want to be pushing this threaded part, here more out here towards this direction. So we want to undo this back nut before screwing down more on the front nut, which brings the thread out slightly, and then we keep repeating that process. So we want a bit more off this back nut, a little bit more in here on this nut, and remember it's going to be a trade-off between tension on the lever and actually adjusting it down here, because you can't really just get away with tightening it up at the top by screwing it all the way into the the lever because you lose all your tension, so you will need a good tension. It just doesn't feel right without a nice amount of tension on there. Always make sure that you pull this right back as well. You don't want it slipping off because you haven't pulled it back right enough. It should be a little bit better now. Might just give it a tiny bit more. And always make sure that you tighten them back up as best as you can. As soon as you tighten it up, it tries to slip backwards on you a bit. You might need to just pull it back. But there's nothing really against you adding a small washer behind the plate and the nuts. They don't usually tend to do that, but there's nothing really from a engineering aspect that would hamper you from doing that. It wouldn't hamper your what you're doing in any way. In fact, it might give you a better purchase against the bracket. But that should be obviously you're going to have to readjust your tension there.